Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. Hopefully you're all having a wonderful weekend. This is going to be another daily cryptocurrency market update. And as always, there is a lot to get into. I really want to start things off by looking at the main event of yesterday, which of course was non-farm payroll. Employment jobs are a main factor in regards to the monetary regime, and a stronger than expected number, or a tight labour market, as Jerome Powell calls it, could have these sort of ramifications of meaning that there's going to be more hikes or more precedent to do more hikes, and so on and so forth. So yesterday we actually had an undershoot of 197,000 when the expectation was 205,000. It wasn't a massive undershoot, and then you can see there was a number of other areas like unemployment actually came out below expected. In regards to, they were expecting a 3.6% unemployment rate, and it came out at 3.5, which is 0.1% lower than expected, and certainly lower than the previous one. So unemployment, according to this, is coming down. And then you've got an unchange in the the Canadian employment. Let's focus on the US. Let's not go into Canadian. But in regards to the US, you had unemployment that actually came down. You had non-farm payroll changes, which actually saw less jobs added to the economy, and the average hourly earnings month on month actually increased above expectations. So it was quite a mixed bag. You, of course, got a reaction, and we'll come on to the reaction that we saw for Bitcoin and how it was pathetic. You got, of course, a reaction from the dollar. Now, we've been kind of limboing in between, okay, we can see maybe a little bit of short-term downside, a couple of weeks, which we're having in crypto. And, not really wanting to do anything from a position point of view, regardless, because we're very unsure. So we're very much still long and have a very bullish outlook for all the reasons that we've described on the markets over the next 6-12 months. We did a video earlier, actually, where we looked at the biggest crypto-related companies in the world, and you will find with all of these companies, and please go and give that video a watch, I've not seen anybody else reporting this, and we show you the filings for the largest institutional holders in pretty much all of these companies are BlackRock, Citi, Bank of America, Fidelity, Vanguard, so on and so forth, Morgan Stanley, which is very telling, I think. But back onto the kind of, I need to stop trying to confirm my bias of why we're bullish. Back onto the sort of non-farm and yesterday and the short-term moves. The dollar actually sold off. So we had a really nice move for the dollar to the downside. But it also got bought up towards the end of the day. So the dollar kind of was due a pullback. Maybe there's a sort of final high to come, and it moves in some sort of a three-wave fashion, and then it sort of starts to roll, and that coincides with crypto, which did literally nothing yesterday, by the way. I've got to say, if you compare crypto with the stock market, if you compare crypto with most markets out there, it's been a bit of a lame duck. And it's suffering from a complete lack of interest right now. This is a boring doldrum time in the market from a price point of view. And actually, these are the times, in my opinion, where you want to be paying the most attention, because this is, in my opinion, great accumulation period that's ultimately going to set you up for, some seriously life-changing opportunities ahead. Crypto is only going one way eventually, and that's up. But the route that it's going to take to get there isn't going to be straightforward, and we're seeing this. So crypto really did nothing yesterday at all. Even if we go down to an hourly candle, you can see you're just range bound like you have been for a month or so now. We have said that the likely outcome with this sort of consolidation is that it just drifts to the downside. It's going to find a level, something will come in, and boom, it will pop, and then you'll take that 30k. Everyone once 30k, that resistance being taken, gets on the side of the trade, and off it goes. And I think, I wouldn't be surprised to see ETFs having something to do with this. You had ProShares and Bitwise have now filed applications for 2 more Bitcoin ETFs, so you're getting more and more people on that trade. Maybe suggests that, or filing for ETFs, maybe suggests that they know that an ETF acceptance is close. That then sort of catapults Bitcoin into a kind of accepted asset, an asset class, if you will. It essentially becomes, and I think that's going to do very, very well for see it do very well. And we've looked at the comparisons with gold and stuff like that. So yesterday's numbers didn't really do a lot. I wasn't expecting a miss. I was expecting a beat, just like we had with ADP non-farm employment changes. This came out massively up over the forecast. This one came out slightly down. So interesting. Again, the dollar didn't really. The dollar did a lot. The stock market, which is very much due a pullback. This is something that we've been highlighting. Of course, you had Apple, which I can find here, now has fallen below $3 trillion. With a lot of these stocks that we were really very good on the kind of trade with a lot of these stocks. We have been calling for a rest here, certainly with stocks that have hit our targets, like Microsoft, for example, the likes of Apple. You were going to get a rest at some point. Is this now coming back into support that has been previous resistance, and then and you see the kind of support and resistance flip? So stock market, perhaps not all of it. Amazon did exceptionally well. We did say actually this was a possibility because you ran straight into a technical resistance here. It might come back and close this gap. Stock market sort of pulling back. Bitcoin not really doing a lot. It's going to go with the path of least resistance. Dollar still being a little bit persistently strong, although yesterday it sold off slightly. And gold sort of lolling around its all-time highs. You're going to need something to change this market. And it could be just a seasonal change, i.e. coming into September. You might lull around, pick up towards the end of this month, and then we're all systems go. And just like that surge that we had from the start of the year onwards, you're going to see that again. We've got a lot of technical patterns at play for Bitcoin, whether that be the bull flag, whether that be the inverse head and shoulders, that we still think are essentially ahead of us. So we are still long and strong. We did take some, we were actually leveraged short up until non-farm, and then we abandoned them at a slight profit. Bit of a waste of time, really, I think. And now I'm just not interested in trying to call the short term. Couple of weeks, week or so's price predictions and where I think it's going. I think it's going to go on the path of least resistance, but it's not something I'm overly confident on. Let's see what the market does and the hand that it plays, and then we can basically adjust accordingly. But we do still assess that there's been a fundamental change from a bear market into what is now the starts of a bull market, and this is that choppy kind of white cap time period. Let's move on. This is US spends nearly $1 trillion a year servicing its national debt. The day is not far off when debt interest payments will become the main expenditure item of the American budget. This is how America got into debt year after year in billions of dollars. So this, of course, is a visual chart of it. Now, I want to highlight something here. We did I thought it was a great video anyway, on how we essentially think a great reset comes about. And it's to do with debt. And it's going to be a global reset where, just like how we ended up on a gold standard, where the kind of emperor realized he was naked and the gold wasn't there to back the dollars, the debt defaults that will come, US debt defaults that will come, will basically mean that there'll be two options: to completely obliterate the currencies through having to stimulate and buy all the debt up, which you'd see a Venezuelan hyperinflation, or the agreement of going on to a new system. We've always said that Bitcoin is very needed and actually almost similar to divine intervention in regards to how it came about. It's here for a reason. You can see this big shoot up here. We're in the end stages of this fiat debt-based system, where essentially I don't necessarily think that it's going to necessarily go away in terms of dollar dominance, but I think it gets rebranded and it's going to involve the blockchain. Moving on, Morgan Stanley back off on recession calls, even with very elevated risks. JPmorgan, not Morgan Stanley. Chase economists on Friday bailed on their recession call. Given this growth, we doubt the economy will quickly lose enough momentum to slip into a mild contraction as early as next quarter, as we had previously projected. The bank lead's economists said. Michael Feroli added that risk is not completely off the table. Specifically, he cited the danger of the Fed policy that has seen 11 interest rate hikes implemented since March 2020. If you look at interest rates, and we can always maybe do this on the channel if you guys want us to do it again, but we have looked at it previously. It's not until after the rates that the storm comes, typically. And we're kind of, in my opinion, in sort of end of 2006 to pull up the stock market. This is essentially how we think this plays out. We can probably even leave this on. We're here. We did a great study actually on interest rates and how many people out there think that the stock market typically closes higher from when they start interest rates to when they end them. You'd think that it would close lower, right? No, wrong. In the past 40 years, every time they've upped interest rates, stocks have closed higher by the time they've stopped upping interest rates than they were when they started them. And again, you've got this period ahead of you with sideways rates. Market will do well into the 2008 crash. This is kind of where I think we are. Late sort of 2006 or coming into a new high. Things get aggressive, blow off top, everyone's euphoric, and then the shit hits the fan. And that could even coincide with a Bitcoin 4-year cycle theory, believe it or not. We're going to do a video on the Bitcoin 4-year cycle theory likely tomorrow where we're going to look at it in a bit more depth. So JPmorgan backing off on recession. Of course, we've looked at Apple. We've looked at the coin shares. Does this leave the door open for Doge X integration? Justin, Elon Musk says X will never launch a crypto token. Very, very interesting. We've seen Elon Musk's plans. These have been plans that he's had for a long time with this kind of X project. There's likely going to be a crypto involved in it, and that crypto is likely going to do very well with the backing of Elon Musk, Twitter, and all the companies that he's at the helm of. So just to really summarize things, non-farm didn't do a lot for crypto, did a lot for the dollar market. Bitcoin's been pathetic in terms of price action recently. It's been the lamer horse, and actually it's been giving up a lot of ground in regards to the SPY and gold. But this could turn. It will turn eventually. It's just a case of sort of keeping yourself occupied and entertained whilst that happens. And hopefully this channel is here doing that for you. So you still could see a little bit more of a drift. This will pick up eventually, whether it picks up at 28, 27, whatever it is, and then bounce is still to be seen. That's why we're not trying to call the short term, couple of weeks. But ultimately, the projection is that we do see upside. And that's very likely, I think, largest institutions in the world are sort of long Bitcoin exposure and crypto exposure, whether it be through Coinbase, MicroStrategy, Marathon, Hut 8, Square, Riot, or Square, I think is Blockchain Incorporated, or whatever it may be. So good times ahead, guys. Anchor down and pick those cryptos that you think are going to be winners, and enjoy the ride. On that note, I'm going to love and leave you. If you enjoyed the content, like, appreciate it as a comment, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. See you in the next.